There's a moment that shows up in a lot of careers that people don't talk about enough because on the surface, everything looks fine. You're performing well, you're dependable, your manager even trusts you. You're known as somebody who gets things done. And yet, something feels off. You're not moving forward. The promotion hasn't come, the scope hasn't expanded. The trajectory you assumed would naturally unfold for you just hasn't. This is one of the most confusing stages of professional life because it contradicts everything you were taught growing up. School trained us to believe that if you do the work well, you'll be rewarded. And early career reinforces that belief. You do what's asked, you show initiative, you hit deadlines, you're recognized. But at some point, usually around mid-career, that formula stops working for you. And the problem isn't that you're doing anything wrong. In fact, you're doing a good job. But doing a good job at your job is no longer the job. At higher levels, competence becomes assumed. Everyone in the room is capable. Everyone is experienced. Everyone can execute. So the differentiator quietly changes. And many people don't realize it has until they're already stuck. Here's the shift. Early in your career, you're evaluated on execution. Later in your career, you're evaluated on leverage. Leverage isn't how much work you do. It's how much impact your work creates beyond you. Leaders are promoted because they make the organization easier to run and easier to excel, not because they individually complete tasks perfectly. And this is where high performers often get trapped. If you're reliable, responsive, and willing to step in whenever something needs fixing, the organization learns something about you. This person is incredibly useful right where they are. And without anyone intending to hold you back, you become essential in place rather than proving your upward mobility. You become the person people depend on, not the person they imagine ascending to the next role. And that is the core tension. Being great, even indispensable at your current level, can quietly disqualify you from the next one. So what actually changes when someone starts advancing again? The first shift is how value is defined. Most people talk about their work in terms of effort and activity. I managed this project. I handled those stakeholders. I worked really hard on this. Well, senior leaders don't evaluate effort. You don't get points for trying. Senior leaders and decision makers about your career evaluate outcomes. They want to know what changed because you were there, what problem became easier, what risk was avoided, and what decision became clearer. If your language lives down here at the activity level, you will be perceived only at the activity level. The second shift is what questions you're asking yourself. Instead of, am I doing a good job? Am I meeting expectations? You need to change that mindset. You have to start asking yourself, what is the business actually trying to solve right now? Where is leadership feeling pressure that I can alleviate? What would make my manager's job materially easier and set him or her up for greater success? These questions force you out of task mode and into enterprise thinking. The third shift is how you use visibility. Many high performers assume visibility is optional, or worse, that it's unseemly. They believe good work should speak for itself, but work doesn't speak, people do. Visibility is not about self-promotion, and it requires knowing your organizational culture so that you can accurately represent your impact. Because if your manager can't articulate what you contribute in an outcome-based way, they can't advocate for you, no matter how much they like you or even respect you. That's why promotions often feel unfair from the outside. It's not always politics, it's often narrative. Someone else's impact is easier to explain. Another critical shift is where you spend your time. High performers often default to execution because it's comfortable. It's what they grew up doing. You know how to do the work. You can control the quality. Leadership work, setting direction, making trade-offs, delegating, it can feel riskier to you. It exposes judgment. It invites scrutiny. But staying in execution too long signals that your value is tied to doing, not deciding. And leaders are paid to decide. They're paid to say no to good ideas so great ones can move forward. They're paid to prioritize under constraint. They're paid to tolerate ambiguity without rushing to fix everything. If your calendar is dominated by doing, you're not creating evidence that you can operate at that next level. One of the most powerful reframes I give clients is that promotions are not rewards for past performance. They are bets on future leverage. This means decision makers are asking themselves, if I give this person more scope, will the system run better or worse? Will they create clarity or complexity? Will they escalate problems or solve them early? Your job, long before a promotion conversation happens, is to make the answer feel obvious. That means framing your work in terms of outcomes, not mere activity. Connecting your work to the priorities of the organization. Letting others see how you think, not just what you can do. And shifting from helpful to high leverage. None of this requires being louder. It requires being clearer. And if you're doing a good job at your job and still not moving forward, the solution is not to work harder. It's to work differently at the altitude, at the level where decisions are made.